Wizards of the Coast has hit us with the greatest piece of fantasy I've seen. In 2024, you could be a homeowner. The Bastion system is the newest bit of Unearthed Arcana coming to Dungeons & Dragons, and you'll have access to it in the 2024 Player Handbook, which is a follow-up on the 2014 Player Handbook, as well as the new Dungeons Master's Guide. So we're going to get right into this feature, which seems to be really exciting and an interesting extension of some things that players have already done. So just like last time as we were reviewing this Unearthed Arcana, this playtest document, I want you to keep your eye on these gray boxes. These gray boxes are where we see them trying to highlight like some of the major connections to old material, or like some of their specific insight as to how to run something. But the basic overview of Bastions is that they're designed to stand on their own. It comes fleshed out with pre-made tables and systems that connect to old player handbooks. And Bastions, what they do is they offer things called facilities. And these facilities offer advantages for your player character and your party throughout the whole game. So we're going to get right into it. It's a new subsystem. It includes everything that you need to introduce Bastions to your game. This document also talks about cantrips, but I'm going to make a separate video on cantrips. And if y'all know anything about me, my spell book is way better than yours. If you don't believe me, ask them on TikTok. Anyway, looking at the Bastions, keep in mind this is something that is optional and up to the DM if they want to include it in the game, okay? So this is not an essential part of your character creation. This is more an additional feature. Some people playing fantasy games like World of Warcraft or RuneScape, you might be familiar with strongholds, you might be familiar with all that sorts of stuff with construction. This is essentially the same thing. It's a creative playground for a player and a shared storytelling space for the campaign. They kind of liken this to players getting the chance to act as DMs in their own game. You get to hire defenders and hirelings. You get to expand your influence in the region in which your bastion is placed. And the way that Bastion plays mechanically is that they're introducing something that's called Bastion turns, okay? You'll gain your Bastion at around level 5, and then as time passes in campaign, characters take Bastion turns to reflect the activity occurring in their Bastions, whether or not the characters are present. So this is huge because this is an expansion on what players can do in downtime. We saw this be recently reiterated upon in Xanathar's Guide to Everything, where they gave player-based rules for things to do as time is passing and while there's downtime. But this is really crazy because of some of the things that you can get from your Bastion as you level it up. Okay, you level up your Bastion and you get this currency called Bastion Points. So not only can your Bastion generate gold and currency for you in game, or literally whatever else your Dungeon Master wants you to do, it also acquires Bastion Points, which can be used to get things like magic items. It can be used to revive a player character that's been killed off, right? The idea is that your defenders and hirelings go out and they recover you, they revive you, and you end up back at your Bastion. These Bastion points can also be used, like I said earlier, to extend your influence in the world that you're in, which then plays into the random events that can happen to your Bastion, right? Maybe the locals don't like you all that much and they want to come and burn your shit down. Maybe your villain is waiting right out your front door telling you come outside, we're not going to jump you, and you got to decide what to do from there, right? So these Bastion facilities can vary widely, and I really love the roleplay aspect of this and how much this potentially expands what you can do in your downtime. So we have different kinds of facilities like roomy and vast and cramped areas. You spend money in in-game time, and these are just basic facilities where you can do certain things. So we're going to get into these special features now. I want to look at very quickly some of these activities that you can do. So when we're in our downtime in Dungeons and Dragons, maybe we are a very spiritual character and our character meditates. Maybe you're an elf and you want a meditation chamber. Maybe you're a cleric and you want some sort of a chapel or a shrine. Or maybe you're a knowledge cleric, or some kind of arcana master, a bard, a wizard, and you want somewhere that you can archive your materials or do your research, or you can craft things like scrolls and things of that nature. Well, in these special facilities, you get exactly to do that. You get to take what's called an order. You get to place an order on your bastion, right? So some of these orders will vary, and all the facilities in your bastion will respond to them differently. And again, this is supposed to create a sense of time passing. Every 7 days, the player character can issue an order from their set of order options. Your DM has a table where they can roll and see what kind of random events happen. Your bastions, like I said, have these hirelings and other things for profit, but they can also just straight up give you items and these incredible access this incredible access to spells that you might not have in your own spell book, right? Look at the arcane study, for example. You get the opportunity after spending a long rest in your bastion to cast Identify once within the next 7 days, not just while you're in your bastion. So that's quite a long time in a campaign if you're not, like waiting, if you're not just like waiting on something. For the next 7 days, you can cast Identify. So if you find a magic item or something in a dungeon that you're traversing that you don't quite understand, you can just cast Identify on it. In the archive section, this is what was super cool to me because I'm someone in a lot of my campaigns in Dungeons and Dragons or Baldur's Gate, I love books, I love history, I love the lore. You can get access to actual books that improve your skill checks. So here's an example, Bigby's Handy Arcana Codex, the benefit. You have advantage on any intelligence arcana check you make when you take the study action to recall lore about spells, magic items, eldritch symbols, magical traditions, and planes of existence. That is cool as hell to me. They also do it for investigation. We know how huge investigation checks can be. This is just your archive, right? This is just one specific order and one specific facility and recruit that you're doing, right? There's also the guild hall. There's the demiplane. These are some of the higher level ones. The war room. And some of these do have prerequisites. And the prerequisites, most of them have none, but some of them will say you need expertise in a skill. You need access to a spellcasting focus, which is your holy symbol or a druidic focus specifically. There's also ability to use an arcane focus as a spellcasting focus, which is big for wizards. And it's also available right away at level 5. So basically, everyone's got something at level 5 if you decide to go with this optional rule set. And there's also a gaming hall. So if you want to play games, maybe you have a trickster of some kind and you want to invite people over for some games, you can do that in your gaming hall and you can make money. It's really cool. It's an exciting expansion on the role-playing aspect and the downtime, which is usually pretty this weird gray area depending on the skill and attention span of your dungeon master. So it's cool that they put all of this into the game, fleshed out, but it's still something that you can alter and move around however you want. So for example, I don't particularly like giving players ways to cheat death in Dungeons and Dragons. When I'm a dungeon master, I don't unless you have like a revivify or a scroll of revivify or the spell, or maybe there's a player character in game that could do it like just one time. I think that's cool. But it starts getting kind of crazy when you look at the barbarian that's able to keep itself alive forever. On top of the many other ways you can revive people. Maybe you don't want to play with that in your game, and that's fine. You can just cut it. There's so much here, you don't have to use all of it. It's really, really in-depth and exciting, and I'm going to show one more that interests me the most. So we'll talk about the Garden Harvest. Maybe you have a nature-based cleric or druid or wizard, and you want to put together a nice garden that can help you with alchemy. If you're mixing up potions or whatever, this is huge for you, right? You can make basic poisons, antitoxins. You can make mushrooms and vegetables, and you can sell them. And you can make gold off of this to buy other things in the game. So again, this is another huge way to expand the role-playing aspect for nature-based player characters. That's just the garden harvest that's just the garden in the garden harvest in the garden that I was talking about. There's also a greenhouse itself, which again is the order harvest, 1d6 bastion points. A greenhouse is a spacious enclosure where rare plants and fungi are nurtured in a controlled climate. Maybe you're growing myconids, right? Maybe you're harvesting them to put potions together, or you're trying to expand a nearby colony of myconids in the Forgotten Realms. Any creature that eats one of these fruits gains the benefit of a lesser restoration spell. Fruits that aren't eaten within 24 hours of being picked lose their magic. So there is sort of this time-sensitive aspect to the Bastion. But again, you can harvest these healing herbs, you can harvest materials for poisons. The role-playing aspect here is really exciting, and I encourage you to look through this document that I will have in the description below. Thank y'all so much for joining me. The Bastions look dope. Check out my Dungeons & Dragons content here on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. Peace. Have a great rest of your day.